the gift of giving is something absolutely real, and you've seen it. You've been part of it. You're a big part of it. Once you see those children's faces light up, you just want to help more and more.
Hi, welcome to Dan's Got Change with Bright Rock, and welcome to another conversation with a good friend of mine who spent some time with me on the Dan Nicholl Show, and somebody who, if we'd been having this conversation 20 years ago, I would have introduced as one of the finest rugby players on the planet. Today, that introduction changes slightly because I introduce him instead as one of the most mad, keen, elite endurance athletes I think I know. Joel Stransky, the rugby almost seems like the distance past these days, doesn't it?
Yeah, morning, Dan. It is a distant past. It's still a massive part of my life, and obviously I still potter around in the business of rugby a little bit, in my work with SuperSport. But life has to change, life has to move on, and you have to set new goals and find a new passion and a new hobby, and that is my hobby, and it keeps me young and keeps me healthy.
I think hobby is an understatement of some regard, because you do this with a huge amount of commitment. I know for a lot of professional sports people, when they say goodbye to their chosen sport, it's quite often difficult to fill the gap in their lives. You've more than filled it there. You've gone right into a whole range of different endurance sports. Why has this been such a Joel Stransky space? What's the big attraction for you?
So actually the big attraction started in terms of fundraising for charity. That's where the first challenge came, to get involved in something stupid and crazy from an endurance perspective. and then it just became almost, I'm loath to say, but almost like an addiction, like a drug. And the more you do it, the more you crave it. You finish epic, and within 2-3 days, you're already wondering what your next challenge is and what's going to keep you going. It's just becomes part of your DNA and who you are. And once you've embarked on that journey, once you've taken the first few steps, it's impossible to back down and not look for new challenges all the time.
The charity is a big driving force, and it's another element of you which I don't just see a lot of, but I greatly admire. I've spent some time with you out in poorer communities, feeding them. I've watched your Lumo Hawk drives through the Epic, the work you do in equipping kids with sight and with vision. It's not just something I think you're doing, but it appears to be something you get an enormous amount of reward from, Joel.
So Dan, I think that is exactly the key. It's lovely, it's wonderful to give, and you do feel good about it. You can't help but feel good when you give something to someone who needs it more than you do, and whether it be knowledge or something physical, whether it's glasses or opportunity, it is wonderful to give. And I realized that a long time ago when I was still playing rugby. I coached some kids, and in the first few minutes of the game, they went up. We practiced one thing, they scored the try, and they won the game 5-0 or whatever it was, just on that one try. And I saw the absolute delight on their faces. And at a point like that, when you see someone's demeanor change because they've got something new or achieved something based on something you've given them, there's no turning back there. Then the gift of giving is something absolutely real, and you've seen it. You've been part of it. You're a big part of it. Once you see those children's faces light up, you just want to help more and more.
And you're in a position to do so because you remain one of South Africa's most instantly recognized people. You've got such a great history in terms of South Africa. There are not many people for whom a single moment has changed their life quite so much. It's more a series of events, a build-up to events. But when you think back to that drop goal, and the one we remember with such fondness, and of course the New Zealanders don't, how much do you feel that single moment, just striking a rugby ball over a set of posts, changed the path of the life of Joel Stransky?
So the first thing is I'm not sure there's a single moment, because there's a massive build-up, and especially from my perspective, there's a massive build-up, lots of training, lots of hard work and practice that goes into it. I think it's almost, there's a lesson in life there about being prepared and ready for when your moment does arrive, that you are equipped to take your chance, that you're equipped to take it. And we as a collective, that Springbok team of 1995, we were ready. We were fit and strong and fitter than any other team. We were mentally tough. And when our moment came, we jumped on it. And I would guess I was the fortunate one who kicked the goal. But for all of us, it was massively life-changing, Dan. It was, we were a bunch of rugby players who probably before the World Cup weren't given much chance of winning it. And all of a sudden, we won it in grand fashion. And for all of us, our lives changed, as you say, instantaneously and forever. And most of those guys are recognizable and household names now. It's, I think there's some guys who battle with it because you're propelled into like a new state, a new place where you're under the spotlight the whole time. Some guys don't like it. Some guys are quite happy to fly under the radar and just be quiet. But it certainly was life-changing for all of us.
The moment that we remember that we talk about so much is that drop goal, and that, as a result, sometimes makes us forget the fact that there was actually a rather good fly half for more than just a single drop goal, who had a rather successful career in a number 10 jersey. For teams beyond just drinks, if I ask you to set aside the drop goal and give me one other moment, one other game outside of that World Cup final, you felt really meant something special to you, really showed this is Joel Stransky being rather good at rugby, what would that be?
Well, there were quite a few. I'll tell you which one I would undoubtedly highlight, but there were quite a few. When I moved to the UK and played for the Leicester Tigers, we did some incredible things there. And I was in a different state of mind. There was no more pressure, no more players' unions and rugby politics. I just went and played. So it was a career, a part of my life that was incredibly special. But the one other moment that undoubtedly stands out is in 1990 when Natal, the Sharks, we won the Currie Cup for the first time. We beat Northern Transvaal at Loftus. They had a powerhouse. Mars Britta as the captain, Burger Veldenace, and all these wonderful, wonderful players. And we went up and did probably the biggest upset at that point in South African rugby history. And it's a group of guys. And again, sport is about the moments, but it's also about who you do it with, the people you journey with and recollect with and celebrate with. And we're a group. We have a WhatsApp group now. We try and gather. We still are really tight because of that wonderful game in 1990.
You talk with great fondness, very evidently, of the team, the guys you played with. It was a slightly different world of rugby then. You didn't have to worry about somebody grabbing an Instagram picture at 3:00 the next morning if you'd had a drink or two too many, and probably not good for you. You couldn't see the cameras as the lock forward put in the 17th punch of the game. Very different world. More money today, different pressures. Would you change it? Would you play in today's era, or you're happy with the time that you got to play?
So I don't think you can ever look back and say you weren't happy with the time you played. But I look at some of the players from those times who financially suffer, who are not well off and who battle through life. And in fact, one or two have passed away. There was one guy who I played with when I was at Northern Transvaal. I was in the Air Force. He was, senior player in the Northern side. He died a beggar on the streets of Skopje. So when I look at that, I do think that it would have been nice if rugby had financially rewarded everyone for their efforts at the time, and that there weren't, the sort of casualties of rugby. But to your point, there was a different dynamic there. It wasn't as professional. We had a lot more fun off the field. No one understood the long-term, effects of having a bit of a bender and too much red wine in the Dan Nicholl world. It was a different dynamic, and there was certainly a lot more fun to be had. I think I was blessed because I got to play in both areas and experienced a bit of both.
And we, as a result, got to watch you play in both, which was a joy. We now get to watch you do something different. And my final question to you, Joel, we've spent a lot of time in the last few years at events like the Cape Epic. You've done triathlons, you've done races. There's not much you haven't done. Is there still a sporting itch to scratch, a particular event you haven't done yet, but that you'd really love to?
So there's not... So I do want to run the Comrades downhill. I didn't uprun 2 years ago as part of my Big Five. I would like to run the downhill, the down run. But what I do want to do is I want to go back to Europe and go ride my bike in Europe and ride some of those iconic Tour de France climbs. I got a little taste of it about 3 or 4 years ago. But I'd like to go back and spend a bit longer there and ride a little bit more, maybe even to Italy, to Mont Ventoux and some of the, the great climbs we see in the Giro. It's just, I think the riding there is so iconic and so special. It's climbs and mountains we don't get to climb in this country. There's, they just don't exist here. And to go and do to that to go and do that with a couple of mates and with our wives would be incredibly special. So probably not a race to do that, but certainly some sporting event, some action to go and partake in.
And yet somehow I think there'd still be a rather competitive streak to it all if Mr. Stransky is involved with the peloton at all.
I hope so.
Joel, thank you so much, man. It was a delight catching up and great hearing about what you're doing from race endurance adventures. What I love about where you are now is that as much as we love the winning drop goal and as much as you're that 95 hero, the stuff you're doing in charity, I think, is really going to define that Joel Stransky legacy, and that's a wonderful one to have. So thank you for sharing it with us. Keep up the fabulous work, and we'll look forward to see you riding uphill in Europe in the future.
Cheers, Dan. Thanks very much. And thanks for your support of my charity as well. And of me personally, it means a huge amount. Thank you.
So there we go. Joel Stransky. I still remember that wonderful moment on the Dan Nicholl Show when Demi Lee, the Miss World, told Joel that her mum loved him. I've never seen someone's face drop quite so quickly. That's Dan Nicholl with our special guest, Joel Stransky. Back again next week. See you then. Goodbye.